Thank you for joining today's episode of the Obsessively Outspoken podcast. My name is Remington, and today I am joined by a very special guest, Lori Lang. Lori, how are you?
I am well today, Remington, and really happy to be talking with you.
Good. So I know that you have your company called Lori Lang Concierge Wellness, and I would like for you to tell me and the viewership a little bit about it.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for that, Remington. So the full title also has the umbrella of what my main background and passion and credentials are in, which is nutrition. So I'm a registered and licensed dietitian nutritionist. I am independent, and I work with individuals and companies also in team building and rolling out positive information to their companies on enhancing lifestyle. So that means chronic disease prevention, increasing vitality, actually, taking on lifestyle practices, nutrition first, but also moving around, yoga, meditation, supplements. So because the way we feel, the way we speak, the way we talk to ourselves, how we are in the world, is also part of is also part of that whole process. So what I do is concierge. I mean, just the term concierge means it's pretty customized. And from my perspective, I offer a holistic accountability partnership to people. For analysis and coming up with sustainable lifestyle changes that will enhance their health, vitality, wellness, longevity, lightness, happiness. Across a whole spectrum of lifestyle elements. So there's a long answer for you, Remington.
So when was that moment in your life when you unequivocally knew this was your life's calling?
Wow, what a question. That's an awesome question. Okay, so nutrition and health and wellness, that is a second career for me. So I feel like a cat in my life. I hope to live out my whole 9 lives, and I'm hoping that maybe I'm somewhere in the 6th. So which means I've got a couple lives left. And so I, went through sort of a midlife recalibration where I changed it. I spent about 20 years in sales management and training, and in a negative marriage relationship, and so it kind of blew up my life in my mid late 30s, and left that work, went back to school because I wanted to do something that was more service oriented. And during that time, from my research, I decided that I would study occupational therapy. And about the time that I started school, my 2 very best friends were diagnosed with different kinds of cancer, and just wanting to, do research, because I felt like, oh my gosh, what can I do that could, potentially be helpful, was to, learn some things about nutrition. So actually what happened during that process was that nutrition picked me. And so I changed the curriculum that I was undertaking in school, and then studied clinical dietetics and nutrition. And then after that, it morphed into a more holistic, full person, customized way of helping people embrace their vitality and move toward their wellness. Like come up with an individual plan that's not a cookie cutter thing that is just one size fits all, but quite individualized, so that it works in a person's individual life. Another long answer. I guess I talk too much.
No, that's fine. Trust me. You're on a platform called Obsessively Outspoken.
Oh, that's right. What was I thinking? Right. Perfect.
I'm at
Yep.
home. I would love to
Yep.
do this interview in person, but we can't
Yep.
due to a pandemic. How important is it? And what are some of the things that people can do when it comes to boosting your immune system?
Yes. Well, that is a perfect question to pose to me. I mean, that is a theme that is always looms large on my list of objectives when I work with individuals. But now, for sure, I've been offering some different webinars on just that. On my website, which describes a lot of services that I provide, there's a blog post that is entitled "Immune Boosting Strategies." I also am right now marketing a webinar that is some of that information, which will be on Zoom and will include Q&A, et cetera. But so how important is it? I mean, it's of the utmost importance because if we're talking about beyond the mode of just the things that I can change, like talking about the optimal nutrition to boost immune systems. I can talk about that. I can talk about some supplements, of course, always second to food, but really important. I can talk about some other lifestyle practices. But one of the things that's really important that I want to share with folks is, in these times, I mean, we're living in very surrealistic, unprecedented times with a level of uncertainty that is also unprecedented. So I'm also a person I mentioned. So I'm a certified yoga teacher. I resonate with a lot of Eastern kind of thought, Buddhism, that sort of thing. And part of that whole idea is impermanence, uncertainty. The only thing that we can be certain about is uncertainty and change. So we are living that in a way that none of us could have imagined. So what can kind of happen is a level of hopelessness and a lack of empowerment. And so the idea that I want to drive home is, there are some things. It's like the Serenity Prayer. I don't know, if your listening audience is familiar with that, but so whether whatever your vision of a higher power or lack thereof, it is God or somebody or the tree or the universe, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so what I'm talking about here is to know that we do have control over some stuff. And so to just turn over everything to the lack of agency that we have in a lot of areas right now, we need to embrace the areas over which we do have agency, which is, that's a whole other category, is to talk about the silver linings that could be just discussed of what's happening right now. But what we have control over is what we put into our body, how we move our bodies, even if the ways may not be available to us in all of the ways that were available before, the thoughts that we think, recognizing when those are dysfunctional, and getting out a toolbox or developing a toolbox to change them when possible. So what I'm saying is, we can shop differently, we can eat differently, we can move differently, we can recognize our thoughts when they are negative, dysfunctional, and when they need to be changed, and we can change them via a whole bunch of tools that we can develop in a toolbox when we work with others. Because sometimes when we get into our mind, and this is part of the concept of mindfulness, which is a big, a big part of yoga and and Eastern thought, which is, also get in the current moment. We can't live, of course, we have to make some plans, but we can't live in worrying about the future, regretting choices that we made in the past. Sometimes current time, right here, right now, is engaging the senses and becoming embodied and getting out of our minds, which we can ruminate and extrapolate these thoughts that are filled with fear and panic, and they not only don't help us embrace better better lifestyle habits, it also suppresses our immunity. I mean, so those are those negative thoughts, those rabbit holes that we can go down, that where it's all negative. It's really to pull ourselves out of it. A lot of times is to get in the now, embody ourselves, and sometimes that is engaging our senses. So that is to look at the sky, smell the air, feel the sunshine, taste something luscious, connect with someone, listen to music, sing, move, dance. So those that's more what a holistic idea of embracing the things that we do have agency over, and it changes us. It changes us at the cellular and energetic level, and sometimes that's what we need to do instead of just saying, this really sucks. I can't change it. It can't be how I want. I want to do A, B, C, and D. Like I want to. I live alone. I haven't touched another sentient being except for my cat in 2 months. I mean, I like to sing. I can sing. I like to dance with people. That's not happening. I want to be in person with people and hug. I want to travel. And be with people. All of those things are outside of the scope of possibility. But if I just linger in regret and resentment, I'm going down the tubes.
I think you gave people a good list of things to do. It's not just about diet, which is important, but it's also about meditation. It's also about the books that you read, the things that you want, how you feed your mind as well. So that was helpful.
If you're asking, in particular about, so what do you eat? I would love to direct people to my website, and also to the live event page of my website. My website is my name, which is LauriLang.com, and it's spelled a little different. It's LauriLang.com, and that blog post that talks about immune boosting food. So I'll just give you a really quick overview. I'm going to give you first, the plant portion of the overview, and then there's something that has to do with making sure that you get enough protein, which can happen mostly plant-based, but can also include some good clean animal protein, especially fish containing cleaner, low mercury or low contaminant fish containing omega-3 fatty acids, because all of the building blocks of immune factors. So the white blood cells that fight the battle, and all of the other soldiers, foot soldiers of the immune system, they all use protein as the building blocks. So this is not a good time to not be taking in enough protein. So that's that part of it. And I can even give people a little formula, for that, if you'd like me to do that. But so the plant portion, so we know that even when people disagree on what is an optimal diet, the part that usually doesn't change is that we need to have a lot of vegetables, and even if it's that we need to have a lot of vegetables. And I'm going to highlight one extremely superstar family of vegetables, and then another family that has less players. Okay, and those two families of vegetables are cruciferous vegetables and the allium family. Okay, so cruciferous vegetables is a topic that I love to talk about. I've done a lot of food demonstrations and some cooking classes, etc. But cruciferous vegetables were in on the ground floor of knowing that food fights cancer. So from my perspective, what I like to teach people, or just remind people of, is a quote that Hippocrates, that was credited to Hippocrates, which is about 2,500 years ago, which is, let food be thy medicine, let medicine be thy food. So food can actually, at the cellular level, be like medicine. In fact, many medicines come back to the mechanism or the reaction that happens with eating certain foods and plants and herbs and stuff like that. So the cruciferous family is the family that contains broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, kale, collard greens, arugula, watercress, radishes, horseradish, some others, okay? And all of the cabbages. So that means baby bok choy and tatsoi and, all of these other different forms of cabbage. So it's interesting because this is I call it a superstar family, because not only does it have mechanisms that fight cancer, and it may fight a lot of kinds of cancer, but in particular, sex hormone-related cancers, so breast cancer and prostate cancer. And in fact, when we talk about mechanisms going back to food, there are anti-cancer drugs called like aromatase inhibitors. So if anybody in your listenership, is a breast cancer survivor, that's one of the medications that a lot of breast cancer survivors are on for the duration is an aromatase inhibitor. Well, that's one of the mechanisms that cruciferous vegetables have. But so in addition to that anti-cancer stuff, and in addition to some detoxification properties, which is interesting because this, if you get into the biochemistry of it, these vegetables have something that helps to detoxify environmental toxins, metabolically in our livers and in other places. And then, in addition to that, these vegetables have a lot of immune boosting properties that vitalize or energize, the white blood cells that are part of that army. And I'm not going to go into, and no, it's not like this is very complicated stuff. It's not like I understand every step along the way, of immune function anyway, not that everybody wants to hear that. But so that's a really important thing that cruciferous vegetables do. But, when I talk to people about this and they say, oh yeah, I like some broccoli. And I say, oh, well, how much do you eat of those sorts of vegetables and how often? Oh, well, I eat a half cup or so a couple of times a week. But so that is not a food as medicine dose. Okay. That's that's just a little snippet that, maybe it does a little bit of good, but that's not doing the work that we want it to work. So when I say, cruciferous vegetables, for all of those reasons, for immune boosting, for cancer fighting, and even cancer survivorship, post treatment for people who have gone through that experience, and the detoxification process. It's more like, let's get it up to, or let's find a way. And this is where working with somebody who takes that science and then translates it into, so how do I get that into my life? How do I make it yummy? How do I make it beautiful? How do I shop for it in these times when I'm not going to the fruit market every day, So those are the things that I try to help people do. And so, really you need to try to get at least 1 to 3 cups a day if you want it to be in that food as medicine, dose area. So then the second family that I just mentioned there is the allium family. And the allium family is the family of vegetables that contains garlic, shallots, and all of the onions. So when I say all of the onions, so all the different colors of onions, purple onions, white onions, yellow onions, sweet onions, leeks, scallions, chives, all that. So those are magical. I like the word magical. So those are magical in another way. And it's interesting because this whole idea of garlic being antimicrobial, which, so that's not just antiviral, antibacterial, that's all the microbes. There are different foods that have those antimicrobial properties. And it is said that garlic has had those properties back to way before anybody understood any of the reasons why, but for some reason, because they observed it in the population. I mean, people were eating garlic like mad back in the times of the plague, because they could see that people who ate in a particular way, maybe they had a lower probability of getting stuff. So, well, how's that first start?
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
Lori, what is the most challenging part of your job, and what is the most gratifying thing about what you do?
From a human perspective, a difficulty is, and I'm sure that you're familiar with this concept, but there was a guy named James Prochaska who came up with this psychological model that he called the stages of change. Maybe you remember that, or maybe you looked at that. But so it's a psychological model that kind of looks at where people are with regard to their openness and teachability and their psychological flexibility with regard to change. Because, change is hard, and lots of people are really resistant, especially if we're talking about, like, I'm going to use, for example, obviously here we're talking about lifestyle habits, like what I eat, or do I exercise, or whatever. But a really great example to discuss the framework of this model of stages of change is the quitting smoking. So let's use that one. So stages of change are the first one. The first one. There's 5 stages. And let me see if I can even remember what they're called. I may not even remember it, because I didn't prepare for this question. But there's 5 different stages that Prochaska actually categorized people in, and the first one is the one that's really, really not ready at all. I'll have to look it up later. You could look up the stages. And with regard to quitting smoking, that would be a person who says, yeah, so it's bad for you, whatever. I can't do anything about that, or I'm not ready to even think about doing that. That is that stage of change. The second stage, which is a little bit further down the road, which says, yeah, I know it's bad for me. I really don't feel able to think about it now, but I'll think about that in about 6 months. Or whatever. I'll think about that, like Scarlett O'Hara says, tomorrow. I'll think about that tomorrow, but not today. And then so those are the first 2 not ready. The first one is really not ready and not open. The second one is not ready. The third stage of change is actually the preparation stage. That's where somebody's saying, you know what? I know. I mean, I know that I've been needing to do this. I'm starting to feel bad. It's not socially acceptable. My family is on me. I have children or grandchildren that really are pulling on me because, like, why don't I love them enough, or whatever, But so that preparation stage means they're more open to making change, or to make a plan. That preparation stage is that stage of, if you're going to be successful for anything, usually you have to make a plan. You plan the work, then work the plan. So it's really hard to just spontaneously say, although it happens sometimes, tomorrow I'm going to blank, just never smoke another cigarette again. Or tomorrow, I'm going to go from being a couch potato to, moving my body on a daily basis. Or tomorrow, I'm going to go from eating, processed foods like frozen pancakes or donuts or that sort of thing for breakfast to looking at a food as medicine. Usually it's a process, or it's an acquisition of tools and partnership and support. It's a process. So that preparation is a magical one. That's the third stage. So you prepare. So you're open, you prepare, you learn, you put together your toolbox and your support system, right? And then the fourth stage is action. So that is, so in our example of quitting smoking, that's like, so with this person who was in preparation, they did all the stuff to prepare, learn, fill the toolbox, and they planned a date. So today is May 13th, and let's say that we're in this camp. So in March 13th, May. Why do I want it to be March again? Oh my gosh. Okay, May 13th, and so we say that June 1st is the day, and that's action. That's action. And so after the action point or implementation, then the fifth stage is maintenance, because you have to learn how do I maintain this behavior? How do I get the skills? How do I get the tools? How do I keep the outlook so that I do what's necessary to maintain this behavior? The most difficult is, getting somebody that's in that first or second stage, because you know what? I can't talk, I'm not going to talk them into it. And I used to, because when I was earlier in my career at doing this and doing other stuff, I used to think, well, listen, if I'm passionate and enthusiastic enough, I can maybe move that person. And sometimes it actually does work that way, but usually they have to be open, and that's a process. So starting to work with a person who is in that first stage or even that second stage is difficult. It's optimal to work with somebody who's in that preparation stage and wants it, and then you can be the vehicle to fill the toolbox, collaborate, make the plan. So and so then the other part of that question is, and so what is the most gratifying? The most gratifying is is partnering somebody through that process of whatever that change is, and then taking on those habits or changes, and then saying, even though it's not me that did it, but then saying, you helped me make these changes that have alleviated my pain or my suffering or my anxiety, or improved my condition so I don't have to take this medication anymore. Those are the things. It's amazing. So that's pretty magical.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew you're a yogi. What got you into yoga, and how has it had a positive effect on your life since you became a yogi?
Yeah, so that's a great question too. So I've been doing yoga, I guess, probably for about 14 or 15 years. Is when I started to go to my first, structured yoga classes. And so why, because I love to dance. Took as a grown up, I took ballet. I love stretching and movement, and of course I yearned for or pursued personal evolution and self-help and getting better from a holistic perspective, mind, body, spirit. So I wanted it. I wanted to experiment with it. So I liked yoga, and I took yoga as a student for a long time, and then in that period, when I left the health insurance provider, which is the last time I probably talked to you, I decided that was an opportune time for me to expand into going through yoga teacher training, so that in addition to practicing, that would be something that I could share with my clients. And so I went to a 1-month immersion program at Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health. I had been to Kripalu. Have you heard of Kripalu? Do you know what I'm talking about? So it's one of the most respected, or maybe it is the most respected yoga school in the country. It's in the Berkshires in Massachusetts. So I had been there. I had actually gone for it because there's a lot of continuing education health conferences there and medical stuff that's on the woo-woo end of the spectrum, right? So I had gone to a food as medicine conference for continuing education credits for dietitians or doctors, like the year before, and then I just decided that I really wanted to do it, and now was the time, because I quit the regular job, and so I just I managed to work it in. But anyway, it was a really an amazing immersion experience. So of course, from a physical perspective, it was, and from a philosophical and emotional perspective, that's the part of yoga. I mean, it's really interesting, the asana, which is the movements, or the postures, that came way later. But when you look at the yoga philosophy and the 8 limbs of yoga, which is really, it's a framework for ethics, really. So it's amazing. It's amazing stuff. Ethics and meditation, because those are. I mean, the actual translation of from the Sanskrit word yoga is union. And so there are they looked at the asanas later to prepare the body to meditate and to really get to those other states. And so I really learned a lot. And so how do I think it helps me? First of all, I share meditation and postures with clients. I don't teach yoga at a yoga studio per se, although I do some special yoga, more simple yoga practices that have some guided meditation and some breath work for a few groups, but otherwise, I just incorporate that into how I work with my clients from an individual basis. And for me, what that gives me in terms of some kind of equanimity and ability to deal with adversity. Like now, if not from my yoga practice, meditation practice, breathwork practice, I'd be much crazier.
I know you don't have a crystal ball, or maybe you do. I don't know.
I have a lot of crystals. I don't know about a crystal ball.
What's your prediction on the future in this country in terms of health and wellness? From a diet standpoint, we are seeing less processed foods. We're seeing people jumping on the vegan, well, let me not say bandwagon, but the vegan lifestyle. But there is still a lot of processed food out there. Corporations are pushing foods that are not the healthiest. People are more active, but yet we still have an obesity epidemic. So where do you see things in the future?
Well, so that's a really, really big question. I think that the progress is that the needle is moving. The needle is moving from, or whatever direction we're talking about. If the needle is too far to the right, it's moving more toward the middle now, so that it is more accepted that eating a standard American diet is not a good choice if you want to live a lifestyle where you have vitality, longevity, comfort and ease in your body, that it serves you well, that it helps with mood, because now I mean there's so much that connects the diet that we eat to, like, for instance, even when you look at all of the research and recommendations that are out there for even food and mood, or for children who are somewhere on the spectrum. Before it wasn't really a question, or it wasn't really a consideration to look at, well, what are these kids eating? I mean, so are these children, not only do you need to look at what's going on in their lives and the stability of their homes and how they're nurtured and all that stuff, but I mean, is there, or people before were not looking at, so is this kid exposed to processed food that contains a lot of different contaminants, allergens, and irritants, plus artificial colors, flavors, preservatives, without any actual nutrients that are helping neurotransmission, which is about mood and cognition. And maybe it's not like it reverses if there's somebody, a kid who's autistic in a particular way. I mean, it's not necessarily the case that eating the right diet is going to remove that problem, but for sure, kids that are somewhere on the spectrum of maybe a little ADD or those sorts of things. Now it is acknowledged that, so you put a kid more on a diet of whole foods, rainbow colors, restrict sugar, restrict sometimes gluten and dairy, because those are two of the of the first irritants or things that can cause problems, whether we're talking about from a physical perspective or or from a cognitive or emotional perspective. So now those things are being recognized. So what I see is that the population as a whole, especially for those for whom availability is there, like having, it doesn't mean that you have to have a really high income, but if you're not, like, so we're talking about frameworks here. So I refer to Prochaska's stages of change. Well, here's another one, Maslow's triangle. I don't know if maybe you remember that one. That's a triangle with a hierarchy of needs, and so the bottom need is your basic needs taken care of. Well, so if basic needs are taken care of and you have enough money for a decent place to live, for food that is nourishing, food, clothing, and shelter, then you can look at what it nourishes me at my in my best interest. And people are doing that more and making better decisions that for more rainbow colored produce, and knowing that there's some value in that. So here's what I think. No crystal ball, but I think that awareness is growing. So that's a positive thing. Awareness is growing, and we're encountering times when I think that the message that I just said, which is, what do I have agency over? So also the message of empowerment in our choices is out there, especially for those of us who have basic needs met, so we can move up the triangle to better ourselves in other ways. Again, that's a long answer, but so I think it's just being more recognized that it's not just genetic. It is that, and this is a whole other long discussion that I want to get into. I get into these long rants. I'm sorry about that, but that we are not just victims of our genes. What is recognized more and more in science as it explodes in epigenetics, the science that shows that things that we do, like the food that we eat, the thoughts that we think, actually flip on and off good and bad genes. And so that we have a choice, and we have agency, and it makes a difference. And so that's a message that I think is coming, or that it's growing.
I totally agree. I'm big on personal responsibility, so I'm with you on that. Unfortunately, people tend to just feel like they're powerless, throw their hands up, and say, "Well, my mom and dad ate like this, so I'm going to eat this way." They have kids. Well, this is the way it's done. And at some point in time, and I never used to be that person. I used to say, you know what? the kids have a very difficult time when they're, watching cartoons and McDonald's comes on. How are they going to help? Well, maybe they shouldn't be watching TV that much anyway for a commercial to come on for them to try to convince you that they need a Big Mac at 5 years old. So I agree. I think it comes back to personal responsibility.
Well, I love the words that you just said very succinctly. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
So I have a few questions from a few people. I'm not going to ask you all of them because it's quite a bit, but I ask you about 3, 4 questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Lori Joe from Maryland asked the question: how should one eat nutrient dense foods post-natal eating?
So I'm going to say that how does one eat a nutrient dense diet postnatal? And so that also may be the problem of, well, when you're bouncing this kid on your knee, I mean, it's hard to take care of yourself, I guess too. But I'm just going to go back to the same components, getting rainbow colored nutrients so that it's filled with antioxidants, antioxidants that neutralize free radicals, and at the end of the day, that also means that the free radicals, which are the bad guys, I do a little talk or a little description of what are antioxidants and free radicals, and the free radicals are the bad guys, and the antioxidants are the good guys that you want more of at the end of the day. Another important thing, especially if we're talking about postpartum depression, is getting enough of the nutrients that are good for your brain and good for neurotransmission, which is making sure also that you get enough of these omega-3 fatty acids, which includes a lot of rainbow-colored stuff, nuts, seeds, healthy oils, and it always includes omega-3 fatty acid rich food. You can get canned salmon, which is wild, and you can make instead of tuna salad, which albacore tuna is a little higher in mercury and a little less high in omega-3 fatty acids, but you can make a salmon salad out of canned wild salmon, especially in a BPA-free can, so it's not in a toxic can, and that can be mixed. Like I make one that has pumpkin seeds and dried cranberries and onions, again, allium, and some capers. And you can do it with a little olive oil and lemon juice, or you can do it with a little mayo and Dijon mustard, and you can put that over a bed of greens, or you can make a sandwich with that. I would just make sure and pay attention to always wanting to do more rainbow-colored vegetables, enough fruit, enough fat, so that can be nuts, seeds, avocados, good olive oil, and enough protein. And it can be really elaborate, like for somebody who really enjoys cooking and has time, or it can be, I'm going to buy these canned, this canned fish and whip together a salmon salad. I'm going to buy a clamshell of arugula. I'm going to get some asparagus, broccoli, and cauliflower, and a purple onion, cut that up and roast that on a cookie sheet and have that. And so that's enough to eat on for 3 or 4 days, and even take those vegetables that are left over, have a bowl of them, and then put a couple of over-easy eggs on top of for breakfast. And the yolk that's filled with also nutrients becomes like a sauce over those vegetables, and it's delicious and beautiful. So, I hope that it gives her a couple of ideas.
And Joe can also go on your website and find.
That's right. Exactly.
Okay.
hmm and on my website I have several recipes for fish and cabbage steaks and chia pudding and cauliflower turmeric flatbread, and so I have a bunch of recipes on there, and of course, if she wants individual accountability partnership, that's also what I do, and then I have more information and more insight into what her the gist or the heart of the question really is. Yep.
Anita from Nashville wants to know, what is your take on alkaline eating lifestyle?
Yeah. Okay. What has been shown, and this is very, very interesting. So what has been shown is that when the blood is acidic, which is part of the rationale of this alkaline acidic diet. When the blood is acidic, so if neutral is 7, and if you would look at the pH of the blood, and I'm making this example up, okay? So let's say that it's 6.7 or 6.8 or 6.5. Then what the body does, and that can be from a whole lot of different things, including maybe too much animal protein, because that acidifies the blood. Other things do too. But so what the body does to compensate, and dairy is included in that animal protein thing, even though dairy is the calcium source. Dairy is animal protein, and dairy acidifies the blood. So what happens in the body because the body is an organism that wants to come to homeostasis. So it wants equilibrium, right? And the body's mechanism to balance and come back to 7, come back to middle, is taking what promotes alkalinity from the body and pushing it out into the blood. And what is that? That is the calcium that's in your bones, okay? The calcium and other minerals in the bones are, if you remember from the periodic table of the elements, they are in the plus category. So they're actually, they have a positive charge, and that stack of elements, like, calcium, magnesium, they're in the same line, and that our bones are made of those and some other stuff. And so what our body does to alkalize the blood when it's too acidic is it releases calcium and other minerals that are alkaline, from our bones, to bring our blood to neutral. So saying drink a lot of milk, eat a lot of cheese, eat a lot of yogurt, isn't preventing osteoporosis. Does this make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah, and so that's a problem, and so that's one of the big things that I think the alkaline acid balanced diet that she's talking about. One of the benefits, even if some of the other benefits, or some of the other choices, I don't know about, or I don't necessarily think that you should never eat fish again, or whatever. But so that's a big part of it, and a big part of what's recommended by the American health system, is, especially for postmenopausal women, take a bunch of calcium, drink, and do a bunch of dairy products. And the answer from my perspective is not a good idea. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
Amina from Virginia asks, what are your thoughts on energy drinks like Red Bull?
So ask me, do I drink a cup of coffee every day? Yeah, I drink a cup of coffee every day. Okay. So it's not just about, is caffeine bad for you? I mean, and the answer is, it's individual, and the answer is depends. It depends on what's your blood pressure, what's your temperament like, are you jittery already? Does it make you wind up too tight? But most energy drinks, and I could be, generalizing, because I'm looking at the ones that I'm thinking of that have artificial sweeteners or added sugar, and not only just caffeine, but then some other herbs that may be metabolic stimulants that maybe aren't so good. So, so the answer is but we lots of people, we it's not like every practice that we do is positive. So it just depends on, sort of like the antioxidants and the free radicals. So, at the end of the day, what we want is the free radicals, which is not just about choices that we make. Free radicals, it comes in bad food and in a puff of smoke and, all that kind of stuff. But it also comes from just natural processes like digestion and exercise, et cetera. But so if we want to stop when we have this many free radicals, but we want to take in so many antioxidants that we neutralize all those free radicals, and we got some to spare, so we're in the good. We all have our poison. I mean, the answer is, we're human. We need to reward ourselves. But so it's not like, so I encourage people to find more rewards that are, not self-destructive, they are true rewards, but they're, also good for us in some ways.
Kim from Philly wants to know, what are good low calorie and low fat snacks for vegans besides nuts?
So if she goes to my website, my chia pudding is a delicious, that can be it's a pudding that can be looked at as dessert, snack, breakfast pudding, and it is vegan. So the bottom of it is made with coconut milk and chia seeds and some other flavor agents, and then you top it with beautiful, berries and other fruits, some nuts, some shredded coconut, maybe some cacao nibs. So it's pretty yummy. So that could be a good one. And also, I know she said besides nuts, but so how about like apples, pears, carrots, or sugar snap peas with some almond butter, a little bit of almond butter, or hummus or guac. So, and then I'm talking about, the veggies and the hummus or the guac, and the fruit and veggies, and almond butter. Here's another one real quick, is this is a sort of a snack with a purpose, is I like this snack. Now, of course, it involves a couple of nuts, but it's a little different, and that is to have 3 to 5 Brazil nuts, which is the greatest or richest food source of selenium, which is, again, an antioxidant mineral. So it fights cancer, supports the thyroid. And I like having like 3 to 5 or 6 of those with my favorite olives. Like I'll eat a Brazil nut. My favorite olive is a Castelvetrano olive, but there's whatever is everybody's favorite olive. That could be a Kalamata. That could be one stuffed with stuff with a clove of garlic, or stuff with an almond, and then sometimes a berry too. So for instance, you could have 3 to 5 Brazil nuts, 3 to 5 or more olives, because I want more olives, and then 3 to 5 berries, like blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, whatever. And so that's like an interesting textural thing. Yep.
How long is the prep time for the chia pudding on your website?
So that's a great question. So I mean, so it's really simple to make. That's not a problem. But when you so for instance, if you make it with a full can of, I use Whole Foods. I use Whole Foods low fat organic canned coconut milk. It's in a BPA free can. The stuff, I mean, you could use, I suppose you can use the stuff in a carton that has a different texture and a different nutrient profile. But so let's say you used, a whole can, that would be at least 4 to 6 servings. Mm-hmm. You would mix that can with probably a cup of chia seeds, and then some of the other ingredients that are on the recipe. So then you whisk that together, and the chia seeds are little hard black seeds that look like poppy seeds. But what happens is when you hydrate them, they open up and they absorb the liquid, so that the texture gets more like a tapioca or a rice pudding. That's the part that takes a little time. So you whisk it together. Get it so it's already thickening when you're whisking it, and then you put it in the refrigerator for an hour or so, and then you top it. So you can top it with, just so that waiting time while the cold pudding sets up, because that gellifying process takes place. That's the only waiting time. Otherwise, it's quick.
What are your thoughts on intermittent fasting?
Well, the science is good. The science shows that from a metabolic perspective, from a weight loss perspective, from improving your numbers, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, and what also research shows is that calorie restriction promotes longevity. So there's all kinds of ways of doing it. I have to say that I haven't done a lot of that in my life and in my body. I'm a lucky girl that's eating the way I eat and moving the way I move, and being the age that I am. My weight is okay with me, although it's not just about weight, it's about other stuff too. So I like to eat when I'm hungry. And so because intermittent fasting often suggests, of course, like that what you want to do is eat your food within maybe either 10 hours or less period of time. So if you're going to eat your food in 10 hours or less, and maybe it's only 8 hours, that's optimal. That's one way of intermittent fasting. Some other ways are, you have one or two really low calorie days, and then the other days are more normal. But what lots of people do is, and this is very individual and based on your metabolism also, because skipping breakfast is not always recommended, especially if you have hypoglycemia issues or slow metabolism issues. Sometimes, like what I, as a dietitian, was always taught before is, eat breakfast within an hour of awakening to hurl your metabolism into action, so that you're gonna burn. But so the idea of intermittent fasting, when they say do it all, like eat all your food in 10 hours, I'm going to give you an example. So that would mean like if you, or even 8 hours. So like if you were going to eat your first meal at 10, that would mean if it's 10 hours, excuse me, if it's 8 hours, that means you would eat your last meal at 6. So your 8 hours of eating time would be between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. And then, like if you wake up at 8, then you don't eat for a couple hours. And if you go to bed at 10, then you wouldn't eat, for that 4 hours prior to bed, which is what intermittent fasting generally recommends, is, so that could be great, for somebody. Or it depends on if your day is different, or if you're, somebody who stays up late. Having that last food at 6 may be rough. I'm just putting my personal, Sure. feeling or twist onto it, but so, and it could just be that you're thirsty, and so that you want to drink some additional water and liquid, and that will solve it. But the idea of, if you want to optimize weight, because another thing that it helps one do is to become more aware of, this is sort of dietitian language, hunger and satiety cues. So you stop eating when you're full, you become more aware of when you're hungry. But so if you've made that commitment to just eat during that period of time, you do it. Now, sometimes people start with that eating time is a 10-hour period of time, and then the goal might be to lessen it. So if you start with, you're going to eat for 10 hours, then maybe you eat for 9 hours, then you go to eat for 8 hours, and see how you track with the goals that prompted you to do it to begin with. So if the goal is lower your triglycerides, lower your glucose, and lose weight, and you do it for 3 months or 4 months, and you have your blood work done again, and it's working, that also then, just like always, energizes your intention to maintain or make that sustainable.
Yellow from New York wants to know, during the fat burning process, how exactly is fat being depleted and removed from the body?
Where it mostly goes is to energy. So it's not waste. It's not getting thrown off. It's when it converts to ATP, which is the medium of energy in the body. So it's not necessarily, and I guess the answer is also the fat cells are getting smaller, because supposedly it's not like we get less fat cells; they just get smaller. So
sure.
we're as we utilize fat as the substrate for energy. I think that's probably the answer, but I'm not sure. Yeah.
Lori, thank you so much. What is the website again?
Okay, the website, thank you for that, is laurilang.com. That's spelled LauriLang.com.
So you know that we're in the middle of a pandemic. More people are ordering out than ever before because you can't go to restaurants. So there's DoorDash and Uber Eats. More people are drinking more than ever. Any words of encouragement in closing for the people around the world?
Yeah. Well, so from the perspective of the restaurateurs, they also suggested, which is not the DoorDash people. They ask that you order directly from the restaurant. Restaurants that are trying to make their businesses last. And so all that I'm going to say on that is, you can in every moment you can either make a better choice, a choice that is going to move you closer to your vision or your goal of more optimal health, or it's going to move you away from it. Okay, so even if you decide to order out, which can be a positive thing, certainly for the economy, you can make a choice that moves you closer to your optimal health by getting, cruciferous vegetables with a great piece of fish or some shrimp or some well-raised other protein. But it can be, a salad with roasted vegetables and sweet potato, or it can be, fried chicken, mashed potatoes and gravy, or whatever. And so the thing to remember is that not only are you doing that for yourself, you're doing it for your family. And when you do it for your family or your friends or whomever, because people are socializing by having dinner together on Zoom. So no matter where you are, you can be a role model. You can be a trendsetter. You can say, hey, look what I ordered. It's beautiful, rainbow colors, tastes pretty good. Next time I might even try to duplicate that, in my kitchen. But, and then that might make the other people say, wow, I want to move closer to that goal too. And I can do that. Yeah.
Thank you. So I just want to say how much I appreciate you coming on the podcast. And I know plenty of people are going to glean something from the many gems that you dropped today. I know I've learned a lot. And so I just want to keep you encouraged. Keep up the good work. Much success to you and your future endeavors with Lori Lang Concierge Wellness. Hopefully we get to do this again soon.
We love that.
And stay safe.
Okay, so it's been a total joy to reconnect with you, Remington. Really, really wonderful. I have deepest admiration for you.
I'm so happy that our path crossed when it did, and the admiration and the love and the respect is definitely mutual. Yeah, so, awesome. Wish you all the best. And I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Well, likewise, yes. So namaste, my friend. Yeah?
Okay. Yeah. Here we go.
You take care. All
You
right.
too.
You be
Bye-bye.
well. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.